It was a cold winter morning in a small town surrounded by misty hills. The streets were almost empty, except for an old man slowly walking with a worn-out bag on his shoulder. His name was Rahim, a humble shoemaker who lived alone in a tiny room near the market. He didn't have much, just his tools, a small stove, and an old wooden chair. Yet, his heart carried something far greater than wealth: kindness. Every morning, Rahim would sit by his shop repairing shoes for people who barely had money to pay him. Most of the time, he charged nothing. People called him foolish, but Rahim only smiled and said, "One day, a small act of kindness will return to you when you need it the most." A few steps away from his shop lived Ayan, a young boy of about 10. His father had passed away years ago, and his mother worked day and night washing clothes to feed him. Ayan often roamed the streets barefoot because his shoes were torn apart. One day, he stopped in front of Rahim's shop, staring silently at the shiny shoes in the window. Rahim looked up and noticed the boy's curious eyes. He smiled warmly and said, "Come here, my little friend." "What are you looking at?" Ayan hesitated. "Uncle, I was just thinking, how nice it must feel to wear shoes like those." Rahim chuckled softly. "Every foot deserves comfort, my boy." He picked up a small pair of shoes from a corner and asked, "What's your size?" Ayan shook his head quickly. No, I don't have money, uncle. My mother said we must save for food." Rahim's eyes softened. Kindness doesn't ask for payment. He gently slipped the shoes onto the boy's feet. They fit perfectly. "Now, you'll walk the world without pain." Tears welled in Ayan's eyes. "Thank you, uncle. I'll never forget this." He ran home barefoot before, but now he ran with joy. Rahim smiled quietly and went back to work, as if nothing had happened. Days turned into months. Winter passed, and life in the town moved on. People still came to Rahim for help, and he still never stopped giving. But fate had its plans. One rainy evening, Rahim was closing his shop when he heard a faint cry near the alley. He followed the sound and found a weak, injured puppy shivering in the cold. Without a second thought, he wrapped the puppy in his shawl and took it home. He fed it milk and let it sleep beside his bed. That night, as the storm raged outside, Rahim whispered, "Little one, you're safe now." He named the puppy Lucky, not realizing how truly lucky the name would become. Weeks later, Rahim fell ill. He grew weak, coughing badly, yet still tried to open his shop. One morning, he fainted on the street. People gathered around but no one stepped forward to help. They whispered, "He's old, maybe it's his time." But from the crowd, a young man rushed toward him. It was Ayan, now grown up, dressed neatly, holding an umbrella. He lifted Rahim's head into his lap and cried, "Uncle Rahim." "It's me, Ayan." With trembling hands, Rahim opened his eyes and managed a faint smile. "My boy, you've grown so much." Ayan quickly called for help and took him to a nearby clinic. He stayed there, holding Rahim's hand through the night. When the doctor said Rahim would recover, Ayan sighed with relief. The next morning, Rahim whispered, "Why did you help me, son?" "You didn't need to." Ayan's eyes glistened. "Uncle, years ago you gave me shoes when I had nothing. Because of you, I could walk to school, get an education, and become something. You didn't just give me shoes, you gave me hope. Today, it's my turn to return that kindness." Rahim's eyes filled with tears. "So, this is how kindness comes back." He smiled weakly. "Allah bless you, my boy." After a few weeks, Rahim recovered and returned to his shop, though he worked slower now. Ayan visited him often, bringing food and company. Lucky, the puppy, always sat beside Rahim, wagging his tail at every customer who came. One night, Ayan found Rahim sitting quietly, staring at the stars. "What are you thinking, uncle?" Rahim smiled. "When I was young, I helped others thinking I was giving them something. But now I realize, it was they who gave me something." Every act of kindness plants a seed, and one day it blooms when you least expect it. That's the secret of a kind heart, Ayan. The hidden kindness. Ayan nodded with tears in his eyes. "You've taught me more than any book ever could." The next morning, Rahim wasn't at his shop. Ayan knocked on his door, but there was no answer. He opened it slowly and found Rahim sitting peacefully in his chair, a gentle smile on his face, Lucky asleep beside him. Rahim had passed away in his sleep, leaving behind nothing but a small note on the table. Ayan picked it up and read the words written shakily by Rahim's hand. Greater than, if you ever wish to thank me, don't build a grave or a statue. Just help someone in silence, without expecting anything in return. That's how kindness lives forever. Ayan pressed the letter to his chest, tears streaming down his face. From that day onward, he took over Rahim's shop but never turned it into a business. He repaired shoes for the poor, gave food to the hungry, and continued Rahim's legacy of hidden kindness. Years later, people began calling the place, the Shop of Hope. Whenever someone asked Ayan why he worked so selflessly, he would smile and say, because once, a kind old man showed me what it means to have a beautiful heart. And thus, the story of the hidden kindness, Eknek Dil Ka Raaz lived on. Not in books or fame, but in the silent acts of love that changed lives quietly, like a whisper in the wind. Because true kindness never asks to be seen, it only wishes to be felt.